Hello and welcome to my channel. So I was recently asked by one of you about word pronunciation and how to improve it. Now, the part of English language that involves the way that words sound is called phonetics. And so phonetics, like I said, I'm going to call it the science of the sound of words. And to understand phonetics a little bit, you kind of have to realize that we all use different parts of our mouths, actually, and I would argue even like our throats, to speak. That's the reason people have accents, is different languages use different parts of the mouth to actually talk. And so when someone is learning a new language, suddenly using a new part of your mouth that you haven't used in your entire life as you've been speaking, it doesn't really work. And so some languages are much more guttural. The sounds are more often formed towards the back of the mouth, closer to the throat, whereas some languages are more forward in the mouth. And so people have accents because when they're saying this new language's words, they're using their previous language's muscles. And so the words sound different because certain languages require different parts of the mouth to form the sounds of their words. A kind of silly example of this, and someone being trained to use new parts of their mouth, is the story of, I want to say it's called Pygmalion, or probably more commonly known as My Fair Lady. And it's the story of this London girl who has a very, I think it's called a Cockney accent, and she is taken under the wing, sort of a language professor, of a phonetics professor, and he teaches her how to speak the English language more properly. And some of the ways he does this is like actually training her to use new parts of her mouth. There's this one funny scene where he puts a bunch of marbles in her mouth and makes her talk around those marbles. And she ends up swallowing a couple, or one, I'm not sure. But the reason he's doing that is because he's trying to teach her muscles to work differently than what their, the muscle memory has been doing her whole life. And earlier I said, English language properly, because language is so malleable. The English that I speak is going to sound different from the English that someone in London speaks, and Scotland, or Australia, or Ireland. You can say like, oh, there's a proper way to say it, and I don't know, language evolves so much, and yeah, just kind of be aware of that as you're learning the language, depending on who you're learning it from, you might be picking up phonetic sounds slightly differently just based on where that person is from. And even in like London itself, my husband lived there for a couple of years, and even from one side of London to the other, they speak differently. The way they pronounce things is different. So just be aware of that. Where I live in Utah, we here even have our weird way of saying things. I try not to because, I'm an English teacher and I want to speak a little bit more correctly. But like in Utah, there's an odd tendency to drop the T in a lot of sounds. So instead of saying mountain, a lot of Utahns say mountain. Or instead of kitten, it's kitten. Can you hear how that T is kind of like jumped over? So definitely be aware of that. Be aware of accents and accents even within the language itself. So there's that. And as this is just like a short little intro video, I just want to give a couple of preliminary tips on how to improve your pronunciation of things. And the first one being kind of what I'm giving you here is just the awareness of different parts of your mouth being used to speak. And I personally think even just having that awareness, and maybe your language is very guttural, is very in the back of the throat. Maybe try speaking more forward in the mouth. And maybe your language is more forward in the mouth and you're not quite figuring out how to say certain words in this language you're learning. Try speaking from the back of your mouth. And yeah, so there's that. And then the second thing I want to suggest to you is read children's books in the language that you are trying to master the sounds of. A lot of children's books, especially, I want to say like especially first grade and below, are going to be focused on helping become familiar with the sounds of words and the discrete little differences in them. One thing that I would suggest looking up is maybe, like if you're learning English, look up a list of English children's books that have, I believe it's called phonemic, that's PHONEMIC awareness. So phonemic awareness, English children's books. And those ones are specifically designed to familiarize you with the pronunciation of certain words, or even just maybe not the pronunciation, but the sound of certain words in that language. Think of like Dr. Seuss books. Walk It in My Pocket. You're becoming, even just in the title, you have to be aware of the W sound in walk it and the P sound in pocket. And yeah, so children's books are just excellent for learning a new language. And it's not like a thing to like make you feel infantile. It's a thing to help you start with the preliminary, so that you can build upon that. So yeah, those are my 2 tips. Become aware of what parts of your mouth, what muscles are being used, even the tongue as a muscle, how it's moving to pronounce the sounds in your native language. And maybe like watch how people in the language that you're trying to learn, watch their mouths as they speak, and just kind of start trying to like practice using different parts of your mouth. And then for sure looking up children's books that are going to help you with phonemic awareness. So those are my quick little tips on sound pronunciation of letters and words and all of that. So I hope this helps, and I will make an effort to get out more videos that address phonetics. So I hope this helps. Make sure to like this video and subscribe and share it with anyone else that might be interested in what I'm sharing here. So I'll see you around, and bye.